Happy Saturday, everyone. Happy Saturday. This is a special edition of Beating the Odds with Beeb. It's extra special because I would say that even with the last minute changes, this is the best fight card that I have ever seen. We're going to get all of Mr. Joe Habeeb's picks and predictions and his opinion on this Saturday, today's big fight card. Let's get it started. This is Beating the Odds with Beeb. Here we go. And we are back. It is another edition of Sucker Punch. And of course, we are back. It is yours truly, Maestro Amilcar Maestro. And my main man, my brother from another, up in Boston, Mr. Joe Habeeb. Fam, I've been off work all week, Joe, and with President's Day week here in New York, so I haven't been having to go in and teach Monday to Friday like I usually do. But you know what's been different about all other holidays, week holidays, 2-week holidays? Joe, I've actually wanted the Saturday to happen. I wanted the Saturday to materialize, to come about, even though I've been off work, and even though Saturday coming means I got to go back to work sooner on Monday, and the whole reason is because of this fight card. So before we get into the odds in each of these fights, Joe, I just want to hear your opinion on today's fight card, this Saturday's fight card, and what you think about it. Go for it.
Well, right out the gate, we already said weeks ago that this was a phenomenal card. This was the fight of the century, the card of the century, I should say. And even with a couple hiccups, a couple bumps in the road, making the adjustments they had to make at last minute on the fly, it still hasn't lost one bit of its luster. As you said, man, I agree 110%. Piccoli versus Parker is still a very intriguing fight. It's a good fight. It's not as good as the Dubois fight, but it's still really a good fight, and it's not bad for a late replacement at all. With Shakur Stevenson, no disrespect to Schofield, but that was a really wide fight. That was a really challenge for him, and that was probably the biggest mismatch on the card, with all due respect to Schofield. So having the late substitute, it's really not that big of a deal because, no disrespect to Josh Podley, he probably didn't have much more of a chance, or Schofield didn't have much more of a chance than he did to win the fight. So I don't want to be disrespectful, but Shakur Stevenson is probably going to get a stoppage here, where maybe with Schofield, the fight could have went the distance. So you would have had a pretty convincing, definitive ending one way or the other, whether it have been wide decision with Schofield, or now I'm thinking that Shakur will probably stop badly. So either way, I didn't think either opponent would put up much of a fight, and I didn't think they would have a shot. But we're still here with this monster of a card, regardless of that.
Absolutely. And everybody that's just joining us now, make sure you hit the like button when you enter and enjoy this show, because you are going to enjoy it. Joe is one of the best out there in terms of breaking down fights. I don't fully understand everything that there is to understand about the gambling system. I never said this before, Joe, but when I started to really look into like boxing gambling, when I was a teenager, most of what people would gamble on would be like college football, the NBA, the NFL, so over under, that kind of thing, the odds. But boxing odds were a little bit more complicated for me, and when I kind of started to understand them a little bit more, it was when I was living in England, and there the system is very simple. It's like 2-to-1 odds, 3-to-1 odds, 4-to-1 odds. Whereas here in the United States, in North America, obviously we utilize like the plus and minus system. So I'm sure you'll get into explaining that. But for those of you who are watching, Joe's one of the best guys to listen to for this kind of stuff.
Thank you.
And make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And make sure you also tune in every Sunday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. London time, GMT, Greenwich Median time, all right, over there in the UK for some late night, Sunday night boxing talk over there on the other side of the Atlantic. But over here, 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern, it's Joe, it's Eric Lorda. So make sure you tune in to that. I want to go over the card a little bit, Joe, just so that people can see what we're talking about. And why don't we start off? Will you tell me what fight to start off with? I'll review the card, and then you kind of pick where you'd like to take it. So the very first fight, we have the Saudi fighter, Ziad Al-Mayouf. He's taking on Jonatas Rodrigo de Oliveira, a Brazilian fighter who, by the way, is 6 wins, 20 losses, and 2 of those 20 losses coming by KO. I'm just going to take a wild guess here. I'm not really going to think that you're going to put too much emphasis on picking a winner in that one. We've got another fight here. Mohamed Alakel is taking on Angel Gomez. Mohamed Alakel, is another fighter from Saudi Arabia. He's taking on Angel Gomez. Where did they find this 8-42-3 fighter? Well, he's coming out of Nicaragua. Currently lives in Slovakia. Just going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say Joe Habeeb's probably not going to give much betting advice on those.
Yeah.
Those are wide mismatches. Those are showcase fights for Saudi fighters. But we do have an intriguing one, and I'm sure you're going to want to go through this, Joe. Joshua Buatsi, the former UK Great Britain Olympian, taking on his compatriot, former 168-pound champion, current light heavyweight contender, Callum Smith, whose only 2 losses were to the hands of Canelo Alvarez and Arthur Beterbiev. No shame in losing to those 2 guys. So why don't we start there? I think, Joe, can we start there?
Absolutely.
Joshua Buatsi and Callum Smith. Do your thing, Joe, and break that one down for us. Go for it.
Joshua Buatsi is a -205. Callum Smith is a +165. So that means you would have to put $205 on Buatsi to win 100 on top of getting your 205 back. And with Callum Smith, you would put 100 and you would get 165 back on top of your 100, right? So Callum Smith, we thought had one foot out the door, right? We thought he was going to retire after the Beterbiev fight. It was a pretty one-sided thrashing. The outcome was predictable, at least to me. And again, I don't want to be disrespectful.
I was there for that fight in Quebec City. It was brutal.
Yeah, I don't want to be disrespectful to Callum Smith. Definitely a great former world champion, solid fighter. May not get into the Hall of Fame, but still a noteworthy fighter, nevertheless. So he deserves his just due. So you had one guy you thought with one foot out the door, but he's back in it because this is a big fight. This is a big UK fight. Obviously, you're going to be at a big Riyadh season card, so I understand why he took the fight. But you have to ask yourself this: did he take the fight because it's a big fight? And it's great money. It's hard to turn down. Because once you do have that one foot out the door, and once you do lean towards retirement, but then you come back for money, you have to ask yourself, is the guy's heart 100% in it mentally? I'm sure he's trained hard. I'm sure he'll give it his best. I'm sure he'll be focused as much as he can be. But subconsciously, does he have that one foot out the door going into the Buatsi fight? Buatsi's young. He's very athletic, very dynamic fighter, very well-rounded, very versatile. One thing I love about him, because you know me, I'm biased towards inside fighters. When he added Virgil Hunter as his trainer, Virgil Hunter did add that wrinkle to his game where he's been able to really operate very well up close on the inside. And I think that's where the separation is going to be in this fight because Joshua Buatsi, like I said, is versatile. Callum Smith's more of the rangy guy. He likes to box from the outside, line you up with the jab, and come over with the big right hand. He can punch a little bit, Callum Smith, so obviously Buatsi's got to be careful. He can't be careless. He can't get reckless in there, which I don't believe he will be. He's a pretty disciplined, well-schooled fighter, even though he's still moderately in his career. He's not. I wouldn't quite consider him a veteran just yet, but he's got experience. So how do I see this fight going? I do think because of Boatsi's athleticism, his explosiveness, him being the quicker guy, and him being able to operate better on the inside, I think he'll try to cut the range down a little bit in this fight and collapse the pocket more. And I think he can maneuver very well too. He gets low. He knows how to pivot, step around, even when he's up close. And I think that he won't be a sit-in target there. Even though when you're up close, you're in the fire zone. You're in the kitchen, so to speak, and you can get touched up there. Um, I do believe that if he decides to make this more of an inside fight and take that distance away from Caleb Smith, I do think he can outwork Caleb Smith. And this is a tough one because I do think Boatsy is going to win, but the question is, right? How do you like him to win? So if you're to bet Boatsy by decision, you get a plus 110. But if you're going to bet him by knockout, you get a plus 330. What I would recommend is if you're going to put if you had $100 to bet, right? I would say, why don't you put 90 of it on Boatsy to win by decision, and then I would just throw a 10, little 10 to get that plus 330, little value bet, little tickle, right? $10 is nothing. You still come out on top if you win, right? If he wins by decision, you end up getting 100, right, instead of the 110. But if he wins, right, by knockout, you can get some money back there. So maybe if you want to straddle here, I would say, you know what? I would just pick Boatsy by decision because it's not even worth the tickle. So I would just bet the plus 110, and I think Caleb Smith is a pretty durable guy. He went the distance with Canelo. Beterbie's a different animal. He's just a monster. So forget the straddle here. It's not worth it. I would just bet Boatsy with the plus 110 by decision. So that's the pick there. Okay. So let's go down the line. We got Ajit Cabell versus Zhilei Zhang here, right? And this is a little bit surprising to me because I thought this would be pretty close to a pick 'em, and it sort of kind of is. I mean, Ajit Cabell is the minus 165, right? And Zhilei Zhang is a plus 135. So you could say, yeah, you can bet Ajit Cabell straight up, but I do think this fight's going the distance. So let's take a look at the prop bets because I love to look at the prop bets. Wow, it's taking a look. Okay, here we go. So we got the prop bets here. We got Ajit Cabell by knockout at a plus 175. And we got Ajit Cabell by decision or technical decision, a plus 240. Now, the big caveat here is Zhang's stamina, right? Um, Sometimes he fades down the stretch, but he's never been stopped. And Cabell, I think, is the quicker guy. He's the more mobile guy. He's more of an in and out guy. He's going to be busier, and Zhang tends to be more economical, likes to be the counterpuncher. I could see Ajit Cabell doing a lot of the similar things that Joseph Parker did, and although he doesn't have Parker's power, you may argue that Ajit Cabell is a bit quicker than Parker, right? He's a bit quicker because he's a little bit lighter, a little smaller, more compact, gets low, moves in and out. It's a little tricky, a little herky jerky when he moves in and out. So I could see Ajit Cabell outmaneuvering and outworking Zhilei Zhang and winning a decision. So you put the 100 on there, you get your 240 back, right? You get the 240 plus your 100 back. So I like Ajit Cabell by decision. I don't know why he's a plus 240 to win by decision, and he's only a plus 175 to win by KO. It's telling me they think that Zhang may fade down the stretch and G could get a stoppage. It's possible, but I do like Ajit Cabell with the plus 240, right? I think he's too quick, more mobile, more nimble, more volume, and I think he'll outwork Zhilei Zhang and he'll get a decision. So I like Cabell by decision. Now, we're going to move on to this next fight, and some people say that this fight is the best fight on the card, even better than the main event. And you can make an argument for that. And you're not going to get much pushback from me if that's your position on this. So Virgil Ortiz versus Israel Madrimov. Now, this is another. I've never seen a card. When you go down the list and you look at the odds here, I've never seen a card with the odds so tight and competitive on just about all the fights. So Virgil Ortiz is a minus 125, meaning you have to put 125 on Virgil Ortiz to get 100 back. So you put 125, you get 125 back. You only get 100 in profit. Whereas Madrimov, he's a plus 100. He's a straight even money, right? Now, this is another fight where you have to ask yourself, regardless of who you're picking to win, does this fight go the distance or does it end by knockout? And Virgil Ortiz did go the distance with Bohachuk, and I don't think Bohachuk is as heavy a puncher as Madrimov, right? I don't think he is. And I think Virgil Ortiz and Madrimov are similar, not same, but they're similar in the fact of where they operate from in terms of range. Virgil Ortiz is a pressure guy. He likes to come forward and he works behind the long jab, right? So he knows how to really knock you off balance before he slides in when he uses that jab. And it's a real authoritative jab, right? It's a power jab that he uses to really push the guy back so he can work his way inside. So he knocks the guy off balance and he just steps in hard behind it and he gets inside and he's really good at putting shots together, going to the body, shortening up hooks, short uppercuts on the inside. Madrimov's a little bit more methodical. Like I said, he likes to work his way on the inside, but he's more crafty. He throws a little bit more feints. He's not as busy and as aggressive, but he can step to you when he needs to. When he gets you hurt, he'll step to you, right? So I do think that this fight will end up in the center of the ring, and I do think both guys will be exchanging at close range. But I do believe that Madrimov's a little bit more tricky. He's a little sharper and a little bit more accurate with his punches. So this could be a fight where it could be volume. It could be volume versus like quality versus quantity, right? So you got the volume with Virgil Ortiz, right? But you got the sharpshooter in Madrimov, and he can counterpunch a bit better than Ortiz. And you saw how Bohachuk knocked down Ortiz, and he did it with counterpunching, the two knockdowns, right? So Madrimov could catch Virgil Ortiz, the more aggressive guy coming in, and he could be landing the cleaner, sharper shots. So I actually like Madrimov here by decision, and it's tough because a lot of people, you can fall into the same type of situation you fell into when Ortiz fought Bohachuk. A lot of people thought Ortiz won that fight basically off of volume.
Who did you think won that fight, Joe?
I had it even in rounds, and because of the knockdowns, I had Bohachuk winning by 2 points. I had it 114 to 112 with Bohachuk. But there were some people, more people that I talked to had Ortiz winning because they liked his activity. So that's the caveat in this fight. If you do like Madrimov like I do, because I just think he's a little more trickier. I think he's he knows how to really get those sneaky shots off when his opponent's not expecting it, and he has pop too. You may argue Virgil Ortiz has a bit more pop, but I didn't like the fact that Virgil Ortiz went down twice against Bohachuk in there, and I think he made some mistakes, and I think Madrimov is a bit hotter of a puncher than Bohachuk. But with that being said, Virgil Ortiz is a strong, tough, durable guy. I think he's in shape. He looked beautiful at the weigh-in. Yeah. So
can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Who do you think is a stronger puncher at 154, Virgil Ortiz or Terrence Bud Crawford? Because Madrimov held his own in there against Crawford. I mean, yeah. I heard analysis afterwards. The person I'm going to cite is someone who I'm subscribed to, and I like his channel, and I'm very cordial with him every time I see him, Tim Bradley. Tim Bradley literally said that the reason Madrimov hung in there was because he didn't really want to engage with Bud. I didn't really see that personally. No. So give us your thought, but also who has more punching power at 154?
I think it's comparable. You can make an argument Virgil Ortiz maybe slightly hits hotter, but Crawford's more accurate and he's a more sharper puncher, right?
Yeah.
So if Madrimov can go the distance against Crawford, who's knocked out everyone at welterweight, right? I think he's going to go the distance here. And if you look at the odds, Virgil Ortiz by knockout is a plus 330. Virgil Ortiz by decision is a plus 190. Madrimov by knockout is a plus 400. So that's pretty close. And Madrimov by decision is a plus 215. So the odds are kind of telling you this fight's going the distance.
Mm.
They're leaning towards distance. I'm going to take Madrimov by decision with the plus 215. So we're going crazy with the props. We haven't made one bet today that hasn't been a prop bet. This is how you get creative, right?
Yeah.
So far we have all decision props.
And for our UK people out there, we do have people from the UK and from other parts of the world that listen to this show. I often get questions from the UK. What are we talking about when we're talking about plus and minus, Joe?
Well, I explained it to him.
Okay, good. Because my power went out, by the way. I had to go to my circuit breaker to get back online.
What you have to put up and what you're getting back. I've already done that, and I'm doing. Right. I'm going to be doing that with every fight.
Very good.
Now we got another fight here.
One second before you do that, Joe. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Joe's the best at breaking down these odds. This is Beating the Odds with Beeb. And by the way, if you're watching on X, come on over to YouTube. All right. The X stream is now going to be deleted. So you got to come on over to YouTube and click the link in the video there on X. Come on over, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And if you're on X, repost it. All right. And drop a comment. Go for it, Joe.
So now we're going on to another intriguing fight. Odds are a little bit wider, but they're still not crazy. You got Carlos Adames at a plus 230, meaning you put 100 on Carlos Adames, you get your 100 back plus the $230 profit on top of your 100. With Hazat Shiraz, you have a minus 290. Hamzat Shiraz, excuse me. I have a hard time pronouncing that name sometimes.
This is Shiraz. A tougher fight than a lot of people are acknowledging. This is a really tough fight.
You got him at a minus 290, meaning you got to put 290 up, right? And all you're going to get is 100 back. So you know me, I like value. I don't like putting up a lot to get back a little. So we're going to go once again to the tried and true trusted prop bets here. So let's open up the prop bets. We're going to the prop bets again. So we got Adames by knockout at a plus 400. We got Adames by decision at a plus 750. We got Hamza Shiraz by knockout at a plus 110. And we got Hamza Shiraz by decision at a plus 225. Well, this is going to be the first knockout proposition of the day we're going to pick. We're going to take Hamzat Shiraz by KO here at a plus 110.
Wow. Knocking out Carlos Adames.
I think he's going to beat Adames. Now, Adames, both of these guys aren't really active when it comes to the volume, right? They both fight at a pretty moderate pace. They don't throw a ton of punches. But the difference here, and I said this, I was wrong last week when I said this, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong this week. I do think the more accurate puncher is Shiraz. And the thing, too, is he's the taller, longer guy. So Adames does like to come in and out. He's a mover. He's an athletic fighter as well. And the thing is he has a little bit. He got some decent pop, but he's not a one-punch guy. But he can pop. He can wear guys down. But he's got to have to come in to the wheelhouse of Shiraz to get his stuff off. And Shiraz is really good, with that long jab of his. And he knows how
very tall for the division.
Yeah, he knows how to post you and keep you out there. He can keep touching you with it. Not everything is a monster shot with him. He'll throw a couple taps out there to just keep preoccupied. Boom, the right hand comes right down the middle. So this guy is really tricky, really crafty. And Adames is going to have to take chances to get close. And I could see him walking into either a short left hook or a big right hand over the top. And I could see him going to sleep, walking into something that he's not prepared for, he doesn't see. And, I think that's going to happen. I think Adames is going to get stopped here. I think he's going to get stopped probably a counter right hand. That's the prediction. So I like it. I like the plus 110 here. You're getting almost even money, a little bit more than even money.
Battle of the trainers, Joe. Sorry to interrupt you before you give your final prognostication there. Battle of the trainers on this one. We have Ricky Funes backing Hamza Shiraz, and obviously Bob Santos in the corner of Carlos Adames. Who do you give the nod to there in terms of preparation ahead of this fight?
I think they're both solid trainers. I don't think anyone's going to have an edge there. I think both these guys are talented fighters. They know what to do. They're gonna have the game plan ready. So
And how much does the trainer, the corner man, how much of an influence does he have on your beating the odds with Beeb?
not much. I think it all boils down to talent. Unless a fighter is a hardhead, with all due respect, like Deontay Wilder's a guy who doesn't listen to his trainer regardless.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. But these guys are pretty well schooled fighters. I don't think you're gonna have a problem here. So this is a crazy one. Joseph Parker versus Martin Piccoli. And this is bizarre to me because you got a guy coming in on what, 3 days notice?
3 days notice.
Martin Piccoli.
Wasn't in training camp. Was in the Congo. I sent you the videos of that. You
Yeah.
know, literally
So
just arrived in Saudi and weighed in
yeah,
at 315
yeah. So
pounds.
so both guys are 20 pounds heavier than they were in their last fight, right? But the problem is Piccoli, even at 285, to me is still too heavy. This guy should probably be about no more than 265-ish, right?
Hmm.
He's carrying a lot of body fat. And again, we know it's not a bodybuilding contest, but we've seen Piccoli be inconsistent, look lethargic in there, look ponderous, particularly against Michael Hunter when he got stopped, I believe, in the 10th round in that fight. So he's been hot and cold. He ran into a uninspired Jared Big Baby Anderson. I'll give him credit for the win. I mean, I believe he was the underdog in the fight, so he definitely gets credit for the win. But Bacoli is a big puncher, but he tends to be ponderous, little slow, not the quickest guy in the world, not a guy who moves a lot, and he does telegraph sometimes with his shots, loads up. And Joseph Parker, even though he's 20 pounds heavier, the big question mark is we talked about this. Will that extra muscle mass, because he's not fat, he looks solid, will that extra muscle mass drain his oxygen? Because the more muscle you have, the more oxygen you burn. Will that have an effect on Joseph Parker, or has he adapted to the added 20 pounds? So Bacoli's out of shape even at 285, but then you add 20 pounds onto that, and he's even more out of shape, in my opinion, because both these guys are about 6'4". So Bacoli at 315 pounds that's not optimal, right? Now we'll find out if 267 pounds for Joseph Parker is optimal or not. But if you were just to look at the both guys, one guy looked clinically obese, Martin Bacoli, and the other guy Parker looked like he had some pretty decent muscle mass on him. So without the 20 pounds, Parker is another one of those guys who's pretty versatile. He's got some pop to him, but he's a guy who's really quick on his feet, got quick hands. And he's a guy that really does like to throw a lot of punches, likes to throw punches and bunches. He likes to move in and out. He likes to kind of pivot, turn guys. Doesn't really stand right in front of guys. But against Zhang, I felt like he did get a little too brave at certain points because he felt as though Zhang was easy to hit. So maybe he stayed in there a little bit too long, and as a result of that, he got knocked down. Will he do the same thing against Bacoli? I don't know. But Zhang is taller and longer too, and he had so he had to deal with that range. Where
Southpaw as well.
yeah, with Piccoli, he's not going to have to deal with the southpaw. He's not going to have to deal with the taller, longer guy. Piccoli, I would argue, is probably even slower than Zhang. So how do I see this one going? So the odds here is Parker, even with Piccoli being a late sub, he's still only a plus 135, meaning you put $100 back and you only make $35 profit. Where with Joseph Parker, you put 175 up to get 100 back plus your 175. So this is almost pretty close to a pick 'em fight, even with Piccoli being the late sub. So this just tells you how good this fight is and how strong this card is, as we both alluded to earlier. Even when you throw a sub in there, the sub is still a formidable opponent, right? Which a lot of people think Piccoli is because of that one punch knockout power that he has, that monstrous power, and he's a pretty strong guy as well on the inside. So if he leans on Parker, how's Parker going to deal with that? And I keep going back to the added weight for Parker. We just don't know how he's going to adapt to it. But I'm going to take a chance here, and I'm going to say that he is going to be able to adapt to it well. I think that Bacoli is out of shape for this fight. I don't think he's properly prepared. With all due respect, there's no way he can be with this short notice. Right. So let's look at the odds here. Joseph Parker.
Before you look at the odds,
Oh, you're telling
Joe,
me.
because people are like, well, what do you know? You weren't with Bacoli. How do you know if he was in shape or not? This is Martin Bacoli saying that this is 14 hours ago. 14 hours ago. And he announces, I just landed now in Riyadh. See you tonight. And let's have a look at some of this footage here of him in Kinshasa. Uh, I don't know. He's doesn't. I mean, he was doing a little bit of running, but he doesn't really seem to me like he's in the best of shape.
No, he doesn't look. He
Personally,
doesn't look like the base of
I
shape.
mean, he's got a lot of his belly's bigger than it was when I
Well,
saw him in
the answer to the
in,
question,
in
how do you know?
yeah.
That's why it's called gambling, folks. Because we're gambling. We're making educated guesses. So one thing you won't hear from me is Monday morning quarterback after the fight. I either get it wrong or I get it right, and you can criticize me either way. There's no gloating. There's no gloating when I win, and there's no excuse making when I lose. I've been doing this long enough where I know that you're going to be wrong at least 50% of the time, but when you're right, you got to make it count, and that's why you make value bets here. Which every bet here is a value play here. We're
This
getting
was
value on every one of our bets.
this was him here a week ago
Yeah.
in the Congo. This is just a week ago. Uh you tell me if you think
No, he's
he's in
not. I don't think he's
if
in
you
shape.
this
I
is
don't
a
think he's
week
in
this
shape.
is a week ago in the Congo, ladies and
He
gentlemen.
he gasses when he's 285. How's he gonna perform at 315? I'm gonna gamble on Parker being in better shape than him because he's had a full training camp, and although he's heavier, he still does look solid. Does not look like he's carrying much body fat. But again, we got to see how that muscle burns up the oxygen. So let me unpack this further. Joseph
Absolutely.
Joseph Parker by KO TKO DQ is a plus 130. Wow. So they think Parker can get a stoppage here. And Joseph Parker by decision is a plus 340. Martin Bacoli by knockout is a plus 200, and Martin Bacoli by decision or technical decision is a plus 800. This is a tough one because we did see Bacoli get stopped by the smaller Hunter, who's not the biggest puncher in the world. So by Parker being only a plus 130 by KO, what the odds makers are telling you is they don't think Bacoli's in shape. They're thinking that he may fade down the stretch and he could get stopped here. But what I'm gonna say is I'm gonna be a little risky here. I like the plus 340 with Parker by decision. So I'm gonna get a little risky, be a little aggressive here. I could take Parker with the KO prop at plus 130. I'm gonna take Parker by decision here at plus 340. I think that Parker will be like again we're seeing a lot of scenarios and situations where you have a quicker guy versus a slower guy, but once again you have that here again with Parker being the quicker guy, and Parker can punch a little bit, but he's not a one punch knockout guy. He's gone the distance with Chisora, who he had a speed advantage over. So I think Bacoli, even though he's heavier and out of shape, I still think he's durable enough to go the full distance here. So I'm going to go with Parker. I think Parker is the quicker guy. He's gonna beat him to the punch. I don't think he's going to stay there and trade with Bacoli. I think because Bacoli is going to be significantly slower. Like I said, even slower than Zhang. I think he'll have enough time. Even if he does decide to get a little aggressive there, I don't think Bacoli is going to have the reaction time to deal with Joseph Parker, the reaction time or the reflexes to deal with Joseph Parker. So I see Joseph Parker just going in and out, throwing quick flurries, going to the body here, and slowing him down
The
just enough to cut the volume down. And I think Parker's going to probably just cruise to a pretty wide decision here against Bacoli. I'm not expecting the knockout.
I'd also turn back to the Michael Hunter fight. Martin Bacoli fought a much smaller, faster, quicker fighter in Michael Hunter and sustained an injury in that fight.
Yeah, he sustained an injury, so
Now, but here's the thing, training camps also, while you can get injured in them, to me, as somebody with a background in this, are also important to injury prevention. You're preparing your body for battle. I could see him throwing out a shoulder, or getting hit with something and it affecting
that's
him
why it's
more
called
than it
gambling,
would.
Maestro.
Pardon me?
That's why it's called gambling.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I when a guy takes a fight on literally, what were we talking about, 3 days notice
Yep.
without a camp, it's very difficult for me to pick that fighter.
No, you can't pick him.
The question marks for me about Joseph Parker going into this fight with Triple D were all about his weight gain.
Yeah.
And people are, he didn't really put on that much. Really, did he put on any weight? I'm like, trust me, on this
20
weigh-in, and
pounds.
Joe, you can back me on this, because
Yeah.
I was looking at his social media, I was following his progression in terms of his strength training. I said that he was going to come in about 20 pounds over, or between 15 and 20 within that range of muscle. So, and obviously the oxygen demands on muscle are much higher than they are
Yeah.
when you don't have that kind of muscle. So there are a lot of
Listen,
question marks going in, but I have to go with Joseph Parker, and I don't think either of us are saying that Bakoli has got no shot here. He obviously does have a shot. He's a
got to punch
bigger.
his chance. Got to punch his
He's
chance.
got, yeah, but he has no training camp going into
No
this
training.
fight. I just can't. I just can't pick a guy who didn't have a training camp. Go for
Yeah.
it.
So the only reason why he got stopped by Hunter is because he was injured. But again, he did look out of shape in that fight. Did look lethargic. Did look ponderous. Did look slow. Did look like he was throwing like one punch at a time, loading up. Now, something tells me he's going to revert to that here because he didn't have a training camp. And plus Joseph Parker was training for Dubois. So this change of opponent's probably going to throw him off. So this is why I just think that I don't think Parker's going to get the knockout here because the extra 20 pounds, is it going to make him more explosive? Is it going to make him
No,
sharper? Is it going to
no,
make him quicker? Because
no.
just because you're bigger doesn't mean like you lose some sharpness and some explosiveness.
100%.
You
It
and you're
might help him a little bit in terms of maneuvering around on the
yeah,
inside, not
holding
get
like being
pushed
able
around
to
as
yeah.
much, working in the clinch, working off the clinch. But in terms of punching power, no.
Yeah, that's the misnomer. The misnomer is
No.
just because you're bigger, you like when you're bigger, sometimes you lose a lot of your snap, a lot of your explosiveness. Your dulls your fast twitch
Your quick
muscles a
twitchy
little bit.
muscle, your quick
Yeah,
twitch,
dulls
right?
them a little bit.
The
So
same thing that aid a sprinter, right, or what aid a boxer. And last time I checked, because I do watch a lot of athletics. Athletics, track and field is actually my second favorite sport after boxing.
yeah,
Probably tied with soccer, but the fact is, yeah, you see these guys putting on all kind of muscle for the shot put. They're not exactly great sprinters, Joe.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so
All
we'll see
right.
what happens.
So we got the now we move on to the main event, and once again the odds are razor close,
Oh, this is the good. This is the big one here.
razor close.
I got better Beeb, by the way.
Okay. So
Just
these odds,
spoiler
these
alert.
odds are razor close. So
But I
Arthur
like Bivol
Beterbiev,
a lot.
okay. Arthur Beterbiev is a minus 130. Dimitri Bivol is a plus 105. So again, you put 100 on Arthur Beterbiev, 130 on Arthur Beterbiev to win 100 back, and you get your 130 back. Whereas with Dimitri Bivol, you put up 100 and you get your 100 back plus $105. So this is, for all intensive purposes, a dead even, pretty much 50-50 fight. We're not even gonna go to the prop bets here, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because I actually do think Arthur Beterbiev will win this fight, but I could see it going. I can see it going the distance, but I could also see Bivol getting stopped late because he was wearing down in that last fight, and he was looking pretty ragged in the last two rounds. And I thought Beterbiev was going to get a stoppage.
Round
But
11 was outright brutal.
yeah, so I don't know how this fight ends, but I do think Beterbiev wins, and I'll tell you why. And I said this before with the Fury Usyk rematch. I said I thought Usyk fought the perfect fight. I didn't think he could fight any better, but I did think Fury could do better than he did in the first fight. And I was vehemently wrong in that fight because Tyson Fury, to me, showed up clinically obese in the rematch. So that's why I think he looked slow, lethargic to me, and I thought that Usyk just outworked him and got off first, outsped him, outworked him, and outmaneuvered him again, right? So the thing is, I have that same logic here. I think Dmitry Bivol fought the perfect fight. I don't think he can do better. That's just my opinion. I thought he fought the perfect fight, but better be coming off an injury.
I was just about to say
Yeah,
that he was
I
coming
don't.
off inactivity,
Yeah,
coming off an injury. An
let me get
injury,
to
by
it.
the way, it wasn't just an injury, Joe. It was an
Yeah,
injury that required surgery.
yeah. Let me get to it. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna land the plane for you. So
Sorry, it's
Arthur,
a big day. I'm a little
I
excited
know
about
you're a
this
little
card.
excited, and you know what? It's okay. It's okay. We'll deal with that excitement. We'll accept it. So Arthur Beterbiev coming off the injury, thought he got off to a little bit of a slow start, but once he started putting his foot on the gas pedal, I saw the tide start to change a little bit. I saw Bivol getting pushed back, and even though shots weren't landing clean, as I said when I talked about the recap of the first fight on the Ringside Reporter podcast on Sunday last year, when I talked about it, I said, yeah, Bivol's shots looked a little bit more eye catching. They were cleaner, but when Beterbiev was landing, they weren't as clean, but they were having more of an effect. You could see the body language and the facial expression of a guy was round after round, looked like he was in distress. You could see the face busting up. You could see him being pushed back. You could see him looking a little ragged in spots, right? Where Beterbiev, even though his head was snapping back, he'd be boom, and he'd just go right back to business, right? So Beterbiev has the way of just being able to thread that needle, and he's that guy that just taps you, and then boom, drops the hammer on you, right? So in this fight, I think Beterbiev will probably start a little quicker. I think he'll make more of a commitment to the body because when he started going to the body in the second half, once again, that was slowing Dmitry Bivol down, and he was able to really back Dmitry Bivol up against the ropes and put him in corners and stuff, and that's where he was starting to really work him over. Even though Bivol was partially blocking some of the shots, or maybe not all the shots were landing cleanly, those shots were still hurting him, even though part of the glove would be blocking it, and then it would ride off the glove and hit him there. And sometimes he pushed the glove into his face, and you just saw his face just look like a mess. And of course, we're not scoring facial damage, but even I guess the point I'm trying to make is even though he wasn't landing cleanly, he was still busting him up. That's how strong and powerful this guy is. So I could see Bivol being worn down in this fight and being stopped late, but I could also see him probably going into, I don't want to say survival mode, but I could see him being a little bit more defensive minded once he starts getting hurt, and his volume will start going down and it'll start to dissipate. So I just think Beterbiev can either win this fight by decision or by late stoppage. So I'm just going to bet him straight up. You're only putting 130 up. That's not a lot of money. 130 to get 100 back. That's not. You're not giving up much odds there. So I would just bet Arthur Beterbiev straight up because I honestly don't know. I'm leaning towards decision, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm like probably maybe 55-45. I'm like 55, maybe 60-40 decision. And I think there's a 40% chance, 40 to 45% chance that Beterbiev may knock him out. Right? So I'm just gonna pick Arthur Beterbiev by decision here. Just pick him to win straight up. I think I'm probably leaning towards decision, and I think he's just gonna wear him, just hurt him, wear him down, and back him up. And I think he's gonna slow Bivol down to where he's going to be forced to be on the defensive in the second half of the fight, which I thought he was in the championship rounds because he lost all three championship rounds, I think, on all three judges' scorecards, if I'm not mistaken. And that was because he was forced forced to have to play defense. And
His own
that's where,
promoter, Joe Eddie Hearn, said he gave Beterbiev the last 3 rounds, but still
yeah,
thought that Bivol did enough early on to win the fight,
yeah,
which I
yeah,
obviously
yeah,
disagree with. But his own promoter gave
yeah.
Beterbiev
So
the last 3 rounds.
So when you're constantly being pushed back and you're being knocked off balance and you're being hurt and you're forced to play defense, that's where I think the volume is going to go down, and that's where Better Beef starts to take over, right? So Bivol may try to come up fast again. Better Beef may match that intensity a little bit better in this fight in the first half than he did in the first fight. But I just think like I said, Bivol did the best he could. I think Better Beef could take it up one more notch, and that's why I'm going to pick Better Beef to win. So take the plus one. Take the minus 130. So we got it. Let's do a quick recap before we head out.
Before we do that, Joe, we did get a super chat. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in, and thank you to everybody who came over from Twitter. I appreciate you guys. I saw you guys come over, so thank you for that. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Consider joining a membership. We're talking less than a cup of coffee, guys. All right, less than the price of a cup of coffee, and you're doing a tremendous service to Joe and Eric and this great channel, Ringside Reporter Live. By the way, they go live every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, London time. But let's get to the super chat from Alex Wilson. Thank you very much. FanDuel has Parker at a minus 190. I think you go all in on him because I don't think Bakoli will have the cardio to go beyond 4 rounds. Am I crazy, Joe? Answer that question, please. And thank you again, Alexander Wilson, for the super chat.
I told you that it's a little bit of a risk. I'm being a little aggressive with the decision prop because I like the odds. And I do think that Parker may be a little touch slower too. So I've seen Parker kind of coast in fights. He did it against Chisora. He couldn't get Chisora out of there, even though he was landing cleanly. And I just think that Bakoli, even though he's heavy, he's pretty durable. So I'm not saying it's impossible, and you could be right, but I'm willing to take the plus 340 on the decision. I like those odds. I think the fight's probably going to go the distance. That's just me. I could be wrong, but I think it's going to go the distance. I see people in the chat saying, "Well, how could Better Beef knock out Bivol?" I didn't say he's gonna knock out Bivol. I said I could see it happening. I'm leaning towards decision. So because I'm not 100% sure, I'm like 60% sure it's gonna go the distance. I'm just telling people to bet it straight up at the minus 130.
Dude has 20 knockouts in 21 fights. Yeah. I mean, what do you mean he ain't knocking out dude? Like he was 20 knockouts in 21 fights. And dare I say he came close to getting the knockout in the last fight, coming off an injury that required surgery and not the best training camp.
Go back and watch the last 2 rounds of that fight and tell me you weren't concerned that Bivol could possibly get stopped in that fight. Let's just be honest. So I'm leaning towards decision, but the knockout is not impossible. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Let's see if there's any other questions. Agree with the odds straight up. There was another.
That's what I'm recommending. Just bet them straight up. It's a minus 130.
Joe Ramos is saying he found Parker at a plus 340 by decision.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
That's what I said. That's why I'm taking Parker by decision with the plus 330. I like those odds. I think it's possible. The caveat is, will Bakoli wear out and his stamina fail him late in the fight, and he can just get like a corner stoppage or something like that, or he can just get a stop, be standing on his feet and just not answering back any of the shots of Parker. I don't think so. I think he's durable enough, and like you said, the only reason why he got stopped by Hunter is because he was injured. Probably would have went the distance.
Yeah, he probably would have went the distance. Yeah, he had I believe it was a shoulder injury in that fight, much like Klitschko Vitaly against Chris Bird, throwing out his shoulder. So there you go. I mean, guys, what a service my man Joe Habeeb is offering to you gamblers out there. I mean, the odds have been broken down. He's given the evidence. He's provided a logical, coherent argument from beginning to end for all of these fights. So now the only thing to do really is sit back and enjoy the show. As a former colleague of mine from France used to say, a former teacher colleague, he said, used to say, Emile, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Well, you guys got to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show, because this still, despite the changes, is a tremendous, tremendous fight card. Joe, go for it.
So we'll do the recap here. So we're taking Boazzi with the decision prop. We're taking Cabial with the decision prop. We're gonna take Madrimov straight up with the plus 100, right? We're gonna take Shiraz with the KO proposition. And we're gonna take Parker with the decision proposition, and we're just betting better beef straight up. So there you go.
There you go. Beating the odds with Beeb, everyone. Another great one for you guys. And if you're up for some more boxing talk, we got another show for you coming up now. Hour number 2 is going to be on the changes that have taken place recently as it relates to Daniel Dynamite Dubois. And does this indicate that we're going to be getting the fight with Usyk next? That's the big question. Is Usyk next up for Dubois? Is Dubois next up for Usyk? We're going to be talking about that in hour number 2. I'm going to post a link there in the description box. You can find my channel at Maestro A on YouTube for hour number 2. This was Sucker Punch, and we'll see you guys right over there on that channel in just a few moments, guys. Thank you very much.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
I know you're gonna dig this.